A lot of people have been asking me about Twitter lists. What are they good for? Today, we're not only going to tell you what Twitter lists are, but we're also going to show you how they work, how you create a list, and also a couple of additional tips on how you can maximize using Twitter lists to build and grow your network. To get started, visit your Twitter profile. On the right-hand side, you'll see a section called Listed. These are people that have listed you in a Twitter list. To see who is in a Twitter list that you've been added to, simply click the title of the list. This will bring up the entire list, and you can easily scroll through and see who else is in that list. If you select a Twitter user, you can then decide if you want to follow them and add them to your own Twitter list. In addition to being able to follow individual people that are in a list, you can also click Follow this list to follow an entire Twitter list. Remember, you are not following the people when you do this. You are following the entire list. Once you've followed a list on Twitter, you can visit your Twitter profile and click on Lists. In the drop-down, you will see a section for lists you follow. These are lists that you are following. If you'd like to view them, you can simply click on the list. So why would I want to follow a Twitter list? It's actually very simple. Say you have 1,000 followers and you want to see updates from a certain person or a certain list. Instead of having to browse through all of these different followers, you can quickly click one list and see just those updates. Remember, there are two types of lists: public lists and private lists. Public lists can be seen by anyone on Twitter. Private lists are my own personal lists that I create. No one but me sees these lists. Why would I want to use Twitter lists? Well, in the case of a public speaking list, I might recommend certain people to follow. Well, I can then take this one list and send out this URL directly to this list to my followers, saying, hey, anyone needing a public speaker, you might want to check out these people. Tweeting out a list to follow on Twitter, I not only increase my credibility and also my online influence, but I also gain the respect of the people that are in that list who I've recommended. As I mentioned, there are two types of Twitter lists: the public list, which we've just demonstrated, and the private list. So what exactly is a private Twitter list? This is a list of the people that you want to see on Twitter, but not necessarily follow. This is a list that only you see when you're logged into your account. So what would I exactly use a private Twitter list for? Well, think about it like this. Say you want to see tweets from certain people, but you don't necessarily want to follow them. For example, news outlets, maybe celebrities, etc. You can create a private Twitter list and make it accessible to just your account. This way, when you want to access it, say in the morning to check the news, you can go in and see just the news outlets and not have to follow those accounts. This can be a huge time saver. As you can see here, I've created a Twitter list called News and populated with some of my favorite news outlets like BBC, eOnline, Engadget, and CNN. But if you'll notice, I'm not following BBC or eOnline. Yet I can still see what tweets they have posted. Even though I'm not following the accounts on Twitter, I can still interact with them. I can retweet an article on eOnline, or I can go down and publicly reply to another account. This way, I'm still being social on Twitter. So how exactly do I create a Twitter list? Simply visit your Twitter profile, click on Lists, and click on Create a New List. Enter in a title for your list, a description, and decide if you want it to be public, where anyone can see it and share it, or private, where only you can see it. Remember, you can only have 20 lists. This includes public and private. Once you've created a Twitter list, now you need to add people to that list. It's really simple. Simply type in a person's name and click Search. Once you've found the people you would like to add to a Twitter list, simply click the drop-down and select Add to List, and choose which list you would like to put them in. Remember, you can add people to multiple lists. To view the Twitter list that you've just created, click Home, and then from the drop-down, select Lists and choose the list you've just created. Now you can see tweets from just those individuals. If you'd ever like to edit this list, simply click Lists and then go View All, and then click the Edit link. There you have it, Twitter lists. Not just a way to organize Twitter followers, but also a great way to recruit new ones. If you have any additional questions about using Twitter lists, send an email to the following address.